As MPs debate the rights and wrongs of Donald Trump's planned states visit, outside a crowd of thousands is gathering to protest. It's the second such demonstration since the US president announced his travel ban. Well, our political correspondent Simon Harris is in Parliament Square for us. Simon, how does this protest compare to last time?
Darling, 3 weeks ago, the online petition against President Trump's state visit sparked an impromptu protest, the scale of which seemed to take everyone by surprise. Tens of thousands of people crowded into Whitehall, bringing rush hour traffic to a standstill. This is a much more organised rally, confined for the moment to Parliament Square, and at the moment the crowd is a good deal smaller. It's been timed to coincide with a debate among MPs inside Westminster Hall.
Given President Trump's remarks about torture, his misogynistic stance against women, as well as Muslims, that associating with him in the form of a state visit does huge amounts of damage to the Queen and our monarchy.
Even though this ban is clearly completely absurd, there is something quite refreshing about a politician actually doing what they said they do before they were elected.
I want to remind the Chamber that there are many African Americans in America sitting at home in fear. They are concerned about a president that has had the support of the Ku Klux Klan.
But first of all, we should take a reality check. This invitation has been issued in the name of Her Majesty, and if we want to find a way of embarrassing her, withdrawing that invitation would be the quickest way about it.
Those were just some of the arguments inside the Palace of Westminster. Outside here in Parliament Square, there is less of a debate. Those attending the rally are listening to a succession of speakers, all of them opposed to the idea of a state visit for President Trump.
Simon, thanks very much.
But first, a handful of protesters brought roads to Heathrow to a standstill this morning. The group blocked a tunnel at the airport to protest against plans to build a third runway. Simon Harris has the story.
All it took was a car slewed across the carriageways of a tunnel and 3 activists chained to the chassis. Without warning, motorists trying to get to Heathrow were in trouble. Passengers, airport workers and taxi drivers were all caught up in the chaos.
A 20-minute, I think, journey from a local hotel, and we've been in the traffic for an hour and a half already, I think.
I'm stuck in the traffic 2 hours, so I'm missing my job.
Since I left the car park, it's took me about another 3/4 of an hour to get down to here, yeah?
The slow-moving traffic wasn't confined to the airport approach road. This was the M4. The protesters were from a group calling itself Rising Up.
I think it was quite effective. We had tailbacks going back quite far.
Does that please you?
It had the outcome that we needed it to have. It disrupted activities, as I said.
What about people who missed their flights?
Well, we felt like we kind of had no choice but to take this action.
Of course you had a choice. You didn't have to do it.
I would disagree with that. We really need to make it clear to the UK government that a third runway cannot and will not happen.
The tunnel beneath Heathrow's northern runway has been targeted before. Demonstrators from Plain Stupid blocked it in similar style in 2015. And another protest group with a grievance unconnected to the third runway blockaded the roundabout at the entrance to the tunnel last summer. Heathrow is a high-profile target for activists, and the new runway proposal has put it in the front line. One pro-Heathrow expansion group described the protest as selfish, short-sighted and counterproductive. But no one can deny it was effective. It had a significant impact on the smooth running of the airport. Police arrested 4 men and a woman for obstructing the highway. It was almost 3 hours before the tunnel to the terminals was reopened.
Simon, chaos on the roads today, and it's not looking much better for the tubes and the trains in the next 24 hours.
Yes, first of all, there's a strike by members of the RMT on the Central Line. It starts officially at 9 o'clock tonight, but London Underground doesn't think it'll have any effect until about 11:30. So most commuters, if they plan ahead, should get home tonight. But tomorrow, it's going to have a real impact. There'll be no trains east of Leytonstone on the Central Line, a patchy service on the rest of the line, and no trains on the Waterloo and City Line. The dispute is over LU's plans to transfer 8 drivers from depots in East London to West London against their wishes. And the company says there's just simply not enough work for them on the Central Line, so it wants them to fill vacancies on the District Line.
This strike is completely unnecessary. We have long-standing agreements with our trade unions that enable us to move train operators from where we do not have sufficient productive work for them to places where they would provide a much better service to our customer.
And if that's not bad enough, there's another strike by what used to be guards, now known as onboard supervisors, members of the RMT on Southern. That's likely to take out a quarter of all Southern services, the rail company that runs trains between London and the South Coast. If you want full details, go to our website, search for ITV London.
Simon, for all that, thank you very much. Thank you. Cressida Dick has become the first female commissioner of the Met. The post is the most senior in British policing. Sadiq Khan said it was an historic day for London. She'll return to the force from the Foreign Office, where she's been working for the past 2 years. She first joined the Met in the 1980s, rising through the ranks, but her conduct was scrutinised when she was in charge of the operation that led to the fatal shooting of an innocent man, Jean-Charles de Menezes, 2 weeks after the terror attacks in London. A jury cleared her of any blame in his death. Now her new chapter with the force is set to begin. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
New police headquarters, new commissioner. Today, Cressida Dick was flanked by her political masters, the Mayor and Home Secretary, just hours after they hired her to be London's first woman police chief. For the last 2 years, she's been out of uniform, working in a senior role at the Foreign Office.
I could not be more pleased to be appointed as the Commissioner. It's beyond my wildest dreams, an extraordinary privilege. I am very humbled. I adore London. I think it's the world's greatest global city. And I love policing and I love the Met.
This is Jean-Charles de Menezes. His face has haunted but not halted Cressida Dick's career. He was the innocent man shot dead by armed police. The Brazilian had just boarded a tube train at Stockwell in July 2005 when officers mistook him for a failed suicide bomber and opened fire. Commander Dick was in charge of the operation.
My heart goes out to the family of Jean-Charles de Menezes. His death was the consequence of a tragic incident. There's been a trial. A jury found that Cressida Dick had not done anything wrong. The crucial thing is that we've got the best candidate leading the Met Police Service forward.
Earlier in her career, Cressida Dick took over the troubled investigation into the racist murder of the teenager Stephen Lawrence. She would later acknowledge the Met's shortcomings over stop and search.
It has historically been an issue which has caused a great deal of angst in some communities.
The debate over stop and search is as relevant today as it was then. These flowers outside a school at Kensal Rise in northwest London are in memory of a 15-year-old boy who was stabbed to death last month. He was the second teenage boy to die violently in London this year, the second in the space of just 4 days. It's a deadly trend with a disturbing familiarity which is blighting some communities. In 2016, there were 12 fatal stabbings, an average rate of 1 a month. Finding an answer to a problem which eluded her predecessors is one of many challenges facing Commissioner Dick. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Now, we all knew it was coming, but there was still surprise today at quite how much damage Storm Doris caused in London and beyond. Every single train line in and out of the capital has faced delays and cancellations. Passengers on Virgin and East Midland trains are still being told not to travel unless they have to tonight. And high winds and falling trees have caused havoc on roads and at airports as well. Well, Simon Harris is at Euston for us tonight, which has been closed for much of the day. Simon.
Charlene, the worst of Storm Doris may have blown through, but her fallout is going to be felt for a few hours yet. Tonight it's commuters who are being battered, not by the wind, but by delays and cancellations. At times today, it appeared that much of the rail network in and around London was close to meltdown, and by rush hour this evening, things were no better, as Martin Stew now reports.
In the battle between the weather and weary commuters, this was Doris's day. Debris on tracks and a fallen tree a mile south of St Albans brought power lines down and the rail network to its knees. All services from Euston were suspended on a frustrating day to travel.
We've been at the station for 4 hours trying to get to Glasgow, and we've now just decided to cut our losses and just get a hotel for the night, which has just cost us £170.
We have tickets for a train at 5 o'clock this evening. There's no realistic expectation of getting on it.
I've given up. I'm just going to get a hotel and try again tomorrow.
The Overground, Southern and Thameslink also face delays.
It's not been a very nice journey for you this morning. All I can do is apologise.
Those on foot had their own challenges. Short-lived squally showers timed exactly for peak rush hour. Showers passed, but the storm picked up. With wicked crosswinds, flights at Heathrow, Gatwick and City were delayed to avoid these sorts of hairy landings. There were miles of tailbacks on the roads as Dartford Crossing was completely shut. It looks eerily calm from the air. From the water below, you can see just how strong the winds were. At 3 p.m, Doris was at her peak. Gusts of 60 miles per hour appear to have blown debris from a roof in Victoria, hitting someone on the ground. It's not yet clear how serious their injuries are. Around the city, more than 60 trees have blown down, leaving roads like St Margaret's and Isleworth completely blocked.
We can see this CCTV across our yard.
The tree was next to Robert Jones's tool hire centre.
Busy time generally, yeah. I mean, you can see cars backwards and forwards there. 2 or 3 seconds later, there it goes. I'm amazed no one was actually hurt, if I'm honest. It's, as I said, it's generally very busy, with people just going about their daily business.
Well, standing next to it, you realise just how big the tree is and how lucky we were no one was hurt. Just 20 or 30 metres that way is a pedestrian crossing, which at 10 to 10 would have been pretty busy. And just there is the bus stop. Another road in West London, another lucky escape. Though the owner of this car in Chiswick might not feel so blessed if the insurance company refuses to pay out for a so-called act of God. The name Doris comes from the Greek for bountiful. So far, there's been no shortage of damage or destruction, and she hasn't passed yet.
Charlene, it's extremely hard to get a full picture of how bad the chaos is tonight because, in the words of Network Rail, it's an evolving situation. Certainly here at Euston, the station concourse was pretty chaotic. The underground station has been closed to get rid of, to ease the overcrowding. And earlier I went to King's Cross, where it was much the same. Hundreds, if not thousands, of passengers staring at departure screens, not sure if and when they were going to get a train home. East Midlands Trains, which operates the services out of St Pancras, has cancelled much of its timetable tonight. Speed limits on almost all lines in and out of London, fallen trees, damaged to overhead power lines and debris on the tracks, along with emergency speed limits, pretty much sums up why people aren't getting home.
Dear. Well, Simon, thanks very much.
The notorious road rage murderer Kenneth Ngoi today won a significant legal case in his quest to be released. He could now be moved to an open prison after the High Court overturned a previous ruling by former Justice Secretary Michael Gove. Ngoi murdered Stephen Cameron on the M25 in Kent in 1996 and then went on the run to Spain. He was jailed in 2000 with a minimum term set at 16 years by the then Home Secretary David Blunkett. 2 years ago, the government rejected a ruling by the parole board that he was suitable for a move to open conditions. Today's High Court victory now means he could soon take a step closer to freedom. This from our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
In 1990s Britain, Kenneth Ngoi was one of the country's most feared gangsters. His notorious road rage murder of a motorist, Stephen Cameron, was made into a TV drama. Ngoi went on the run in Spain, but was finally caught and sentenced to life. Now he's won a significant legal victory, which could pave the way for his release from jail. In 2015, the parole board said Ngoi could be moved to an open prison, usually regarded as a first step towards release. But the decision was overruled by the Justice Secretary, at the time, Michael Gove. Today, the High Court said Mr. Gove was wrong. In the 1980s, Ngoi killed an undercover police officer in his garden. He claimed it was self-defence and was cleared of murder. The parole board's assessment of Ngoi suggests the career criminal is a changed man.
They considered that he had made considerable progress in addressing his attitudes, tackling his behaviour, engaging with the types of offending behaviour programmes that are run in prison, such that they felt he was now safe to be moved on to an open prison.
Author Wensley Clarkson has written a book about Ngoi.
He's a professional criminal. The crime he committed was appalling, we all know that. But I'm sure in his mind, although he committed a very serious crime, a lot of people have been released from prison who've committed similar crimes. And I guess that's probably why he's pushed so hard.
It's now 21 years since the killing of Stephen Cameron on the M25 at Swanley. His mother, Tony, who died last year, always hoped Ngoi would never be freed.
Life should mean life. Our son's been murdered. He hasn't got a life.
Detectives want to talk to Kenneth Ngoi about several matters.
Veteran correspondent Phil Bales reported on the murder of Stephen Cameron for ITV.
The youngest victim is the one that I always think of the most. That's Danielle Cable, 17 years old. She saw the attack. Her fiancé died in her arms, and she gave evidence against Kenneth Ngoi. She did say that she would always fear that he would come after her. She had to take on a new identity. We don't know where she lives now.
The current Justice Secretary, Liz Truss, will now decide if Ngoi should get his wish and move to an open jail.
So, Simon, how close is Kenneth Ngoi to being freed?
When Ngoi was jailed in 2000, he was told his life sentence would mean at least 16 years in prison. Well, that tariff expires in July, which means his case will automatically go before the parole board this year. If he really has changed, really has embraced programmes to tackle his behaviour and goes on to prove he is trustworthy in an open prison, it's entirely possible the parole board could recommend he is freed sometime this year. But of course, the Justice Secretary is a politician. She must also weigh up public opinion. But today's case is a reminder that when politicians intervene in the judicial process, they must have a watertight case.
All right, Simon, thank you.